Right, this is the effective classroom management workshop scenario. The students would have already gotten objectives. We've already introduced each other. We already would have done all that other stuff, but now we are just demonstrating, starting with slide 6. But the objective that we're covering is the first one here, distinguishing different types of students that you train. We're going to list 3 positive attributes for each student, and then 3 challenges that each student presents. So that will be the scenario that we are going to be going on, in which so the first thing that we're going to talk about here is making sure that we know our audience. This is one of the things in having effective classroom management is knowing who you're going to teach. So much of what we do in training, we think of the material we're creating and the material we're presenting, but we don't always think about the audience that we're addressing. So the first thing you need to do whenever you're trying to have good classroom management and that effective classroom management is to know who you're training. One of the things about this is something that it's almost like a second nature. You have to really just like look at it, start observing people when they come in the classroom, getting to know like who are the students that I have. Now generally we kind of say, oh, this is who I'm training, but we've got to be a little more specific for who I'm training. And that's one of the important things of effective classroom management is knowing specifically, individually, who's the person that I'm training so I can kind of cater the material to that person. So that's one of the first things that we want to do. I know Danica has a girl. She has pictures of her up. She has different stuff. She talks about Abby all the time. That's something that I'm familiar with. She also uses a USM cup. She has her Patrick Farms cup today, which is a cup that is from where she lives, her husband golfs. I know that kind of stuff. That's stuff that I can pick up, not even talking to her, but just seeing what she has. That being observant is helping to find out who you're training. That's an important part of that. We need to do that before class starts. If you don't know your audience ahead of time, it's hard to prepare what you need to prepare. So if you're presenting and teaching someone you don't know, ask, well, who am I going to be training? Who are some of the people? And it helps you kind of find out how you can cater your training there. Now, another thing, you've got to find out what are you training, what that you're training. And that's something that sometimes, again, we look at and go, well, no kidding, I'm training this material. But exactly what are you training helps to find out a little more of what you need to do to make the training as good as you can there. A lot of these things you need to do ahead of time, finding out what am I creating, what do I need to do with the knowledge of who you're training. Because what I'm training varies greatly depending on who I'm training. And that's something that's very important for us to look at there. Good trainers are able to take the information that they're training and either, for lack of a better term, dumb it down if they need to, or boost it up if they need to get it to the audience. Here at the hospital, we train from the janitors to the doctors. Do they train on the same level? No, just their backgrounds don't have that same level. Now, we've seen Good Will Hunting. There's some really smart janitors too, but still, the kind of the middle of the road where we're looking at there, our audience changes what we're going to do, and that's an important thing. So when you know what you're training, how can you adjust that training to what you're doing? And a key part of that is you've got to know the material. We teach the MANT system here. We know the MANT system because we teach it so often. Because we know it, we know how to adjust it for time's sake, for the audience's sake. We can see if the class doesn't seem to be paying attention or they seem to be losing focus and we might need to adjust stuff. You have to have knowledge of the training. So that's an important part there. Another important part, why are you training? This is something that we run into in training. A lot of times we'll show up for a training and they'll say, well, who screwed something up? Who's in trouble? Why are we having to learn this? And knowing the reason that people are there really helps you better understand your audience and how you might need to adjust the material. And that's the important thing when we're looking at why are we training something. A training that's more of an elective type training, oh, I just want to learn about this, that has a completely different audience than you have to go to this training right now. Be there in 30 minutes. That's a different kind of training. Or you're in trouble, you're going to show up for this. So it's important to know that why are you training? Another question is you've got to find out where are you training. The space needed for training really says a lot. If you're training in a nice area like ours, comfortable chairs, comfortable tables, that's one thing. But if we're doing CPR, is this the best environment for CPR? No. We need to be somewhere we can get to the floor and not have too much of a comfortable place to sit, because we're not going to be sitting. We're going to be doing something on the ground. So making sure your space is appropriate, size for the number of people, temperature, all that kind of stuff is an important thing to think about when you're looking at where you're training. Also, just the appearance of professionalism. If you have those rickety chairs in a dungeon of a basement, that's one thing versus nice table, chairs, and things like that. So it's important that we look at the where are you training. Another one that we've got to look at is when are you training. This is something, again, that some of these questions seem pretty obvious, but you really have to think about them to be an effective teacher. When am I training? Am I training first thing in the morning? First thing on a Monday after a long weekend? Am I training after lunch and everybody's full and wants to take that nap? When am I training makes a big difference on what your audience's receptiveness is. If you're training people who are getting off their shift and you're the only thing between them and they're going home, good luck. I mean, you can hang it up, because they're not going to be caring much about what you're doing. They care about what they're about to go do. So it's important to know some of that information there. That really lets you know those wins, how I might need to adjust this. And sometimes just calling a spade and saying, hey, I know it's about to be the weekend. I know y'all are ready to get out of here, but let's really invest in this. And addressing it sometimes allows people to say, you know what, yeah, I'm still getting paid to be here. I'm still at work. Let me stay focused. But know that their attention span is going to be pretty limited there. The last one we have here, how are you training? Depending on what you're doing, it helps you to know your audience and how am I going to be doing the training that I'm doing there. I wouldn't train children the same way I would be training an adult. I wouldn't train, especially if I was training how to cook. If I'm training somebody with some working knowledge of cooking, that would be a different way than training somebody with no knowledge. So how am I going to be doing the training? Is it a hands-on training? If I was helping somebody cook, that would probably need to be a good hands-on training. Just sitting here telling somebody, here you go, here's how you cook, that doesn't really work as well. So you've got to try to get people moving, get people doing stuff. You can also work on helping people with different learning styles. Some people are great at right now listening to me talk. Other people want to read what's on the screen. Other people say, I don't care what you say or show me, let me do something. And that's how I'll learn. So you have to kind of cater to each person's learning style, and really the more you can get people involved in multiple learning styles, the better they'll learn and retain the material. Even though they may say they like it one way, studies show that the more you can get people involved, it helps there. So putting all this together is an important thing about effective classroom management. And it seems like, well, no, classroom management is dealing with some problems. We'll get to that. But you've got to know these questions. The who, what, why, where, when, and how of your training will help you better get that information. So now we're going to do an activity. We're going to create a list of 5 types of students that you train. All right, so we can think about the people that we train, the different students, and we're going to list 3 positives and 3 negatives for each student. Every student has some sort of positives. Sometimes it's harder to find those than others. And every student, even some of our best students, present challenges as well. So we're going to look at that. An example that we'll do, if we have a high school algebra class, okay? There's one student, they want to be there. They're eager to learn. They do all their homework. They're that smart student. Wasn't me in school. I was not always the one that liked school when I was in school. Now I love it as a teacher, but we want to find out, okay, there's that student, they like this, that's good, that's positives. But guess what else? They work faster than others. So, yeah, they're great at it, but what am I going to do to entertain them the other half of the class while I'm working on others? The work's too easy. Sometimes they'll tell you that. And then they look down on the dummies. I can't believe you're asking that question. That's a lot of problems there. What would be another example of let's say we have another student here that they're just doing the bare minimum for graduation. All right, so we have this one student. They want to be there, they're eager, all that. But let's say have another student who just is there for graduation. Why are you in this class? Because I got to be. What would be some of the positives for that student?
Just to make sure you graduate.
Yeah, they want to graduate, so they have some motivation just to graduate, not to go to college or to eager to learn. It's just, I gotta. What's the other positives that they might have?
They're there.
They're
there.
They're there. It is hard to teach somebody that's not there, so that's a good one.
Attitude, attendance.
Yeah, just the attitude or attendance. They're kind of like, I'm here, give me what you got. So they're kind of there. What would be negatives, though, to that other student that's just there for graduation?
Don't care.
Yeah, maybe they don't care as much as this one. To graduate, I just need a C.
And they can distract other students.
That's right. They might pull down this one,
Right.
or somebody that really needs to focus more,
Right.
get that distraction. Any other one that y'all can think of with that one?
We think the attitude, that can go both ways, be a positive and a negative.
That's right. It really could. And that's where, again, from what we talked about a second ago, knowing the student and kind of what's going on helps you know, okay, their attitude's a little sour. Maybe I need to help them get it more positive so it doesn't affect others. So that's a really good example. So now I'm going to pass out a worksheet for y'all. It is a student's activity handout here. And what you're going to do is come up with 5 types of students that you train. Think of the people we interact with and train on a daily basis. What are 3 positives, 3 negatives, at least. The blanks on here, there's enough for 5 positives, 5 negatives. Try to answer a few of these, and we will discuss this when we're done. Yeah, and we're going to pause the video, and we'll start back after they're complete.